The massive ships appeared over Earth without warning. They hung in the sky like silver mountains, blocking out the sun in 12 different cities across the globe. Humanity held its breath, weapons ready, hearts pounding with fear and wonder. Then the message came through every screen, every radio, every device capable of receiving a signal. We come in peace. We are the Galactic Council. We have been watching you. Ambassador Jiwoo Park stood in the United Nations building, staring at the holographic projection of the alien delegation. She had spent 20 years in diplomatic service, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The beings before her were unlike anything she had imagined. One looked like living crystal, refracting light into rainbow patterns. Another seemed to be made of flowing water, held together by some invisible force. A third resembled a massive insect, but with eyes that held unmistakable intelligence. The crystalline being spoke first. Its voice resonated through the chamber like music. We are the Council of 7 Species. For 300 years we have observed your kind. You have reached the threshold of galactic civilization. You have split the atom, touched other worlds, and begun to look beyond your star. The time has come to welcome you into the greater community. Captain Dae-Hyun Kim watched from the military observation deck. His hand rested near his sidearm, a habit from 30 years of service. Something about this felt wrong, but he could not name it. The aliens spoke of peace, of cooperation, of sharing knowledge that would advance humanity by thousands of years. They offered cures for diseases, solutions to energy problems, and access to worlds beyond imagination. Yet his instincts, honed by decades of combat, whispered warnings he could not articulate. Dr. Hana Lee was among the first scientists granted access to the alien technology. She stood in a laboratory filled with devices that seemed to defy the laws of physics. A council researcher, a being that looked like smoke given form, guided her through the basics of their power generation systems. The mathematics alone would take human scientists decades to fully understand. The alien was patient, answering her questions with what seemed like genuine enthusiasm. Your species shows remarkable curiosity, the alien said. This is good. Curiosity drives progress. We will teach you much. The treaty negotiations took 3 months. Ambassador Jiwoo led the human delegation, working 18-hour days to understand every clause, every implication. The Council offered so much. Membership in the galactic community, protection from hostile species that lurked in the darker corners of space, access to trade routes that spanned thousands of light years, technology that would transform human civilization overnight. The price seemed reasonable. Humanity would adopt certain galactic standards for their technology. They would limit their military expansion to approved zones. They would accept council guidance on which worlds they could colonize and which were off-limits. They would open their markets to galactic commerce and adjust their industrial practices to meet environmental protocols used by all civilized species. These are simply the rules everyone follows, the crystalline diplomat explained. Structure ensures peace. Cooperation prevents conflict. You will find your place among us as hundreds of species have before you. Dae-Hyun attended the final security briefing before the signing. The Council had provided detailed information about the dangers that existed beyond known space. Pirate fleets, rogue AI collectives, and predatory empires that saw young species as prey. The galaxy was not safe, the Council explained. Earth needed their protection. Our defense platforms will orbit your world, a Council military commander stated. Its form was vaguely reptilian, covered in scales that shifted between green and blue. They will ensure no hostile force approaches your planet. Your own military can focus on internal security while we handle external threats. Some officials raised concerns. A few scientists questioned why the Council's technology seemed inconsistent in certain areas. Some military leaders worried about surrendering strategic autonomy, but their voices were drowned out by the overwhelming optimism that had seized humanity. First contact had gone better than anyone had dared hope. The aliens were friendly, generous, and patient. This was the beginning of a new age. The signing ceremony took place in Geneva. Every nation sent representatives. Billions watched on screens across the world. Jiwoo held the pen that would change human history. She looked at the document one final time, at the dozens of pages of agreements and protocols. Everything seemed fair. Everything seemed designed to help humanity integrate smoothly into galactic civilization. She signed. The Council representatives made their marks in ways both strange and beautiful. Light signatures, chemical seals, quantum imprints. When the last signature was complete, the crystalline diplomat raised what passed for its arms. "Welcome," it said, "to the Galactic Council. Today humanity takes its first step toward its true destiny." The celebration lasted for days. Cities erupted in festivals. Scientists eagerly awaited the promised knowledge transfers. Politicians spoke of humanity's bright future among the stars. Hope and joy spread across the planet like wildfire. Only a few people like Dae-hyun stood apart from the celebrations. They watched the Council's ships settle into orbit around Earth. They noted how the defense platforms were positioned not just to protect the planet, but to control all traffic in and out of the system. They wondered why beings millions of years older than humanity would be so eager to help a species they barely knew. But their doubts were whispers against a roar of celebration. Humanity had joined the stars. Nothing else seemed to matter. 5 years had passed since the treaty signing, and Earth had changed in ways both obvious and subtle. The skyline of every major city now featured alien architecture, smooth curves, and impossible angles that human engineers struggled to understand. Council technology had been integrated into daily life. Transportation, communication, power generation, all had been upgraded with alien assistance. Commander Sung-Ho Choi stood on the bridge of the EDF Horizon, one of the last purely human-built warships still in active service. The Council had been very clear about military protocols. Human vessels were outdated, they said, inefficient, dangerous to operate without proper galactic certification. One by one, Earth's defense fleet had been decommissioned. In their place, the Council provided standardized defense platforms and patrol craft. "Sir, another decommissioning order," his first officer reported, handing him a data pad. "The Constellation and her sister ships. They're to be scrapped within the month." Sung-Ho read the order carefully. The justification was always the same. Outdated technology, safety concerns, need for standardization with Council forces. He had watched Earth's military strength drain away year after year, replaced with equipment that somehow always seemed to malfunction at critical moments or require Council technicians to repair. In her laboratory, Dr. Hana Lee made a discovery that turned her excitement into cold dread. She had been analyzing the faster-than-light drive units the Council had provided. The mathematics were elegant, the engineering was impressive, but something was wrong. There were components in the system that served no apparent purpose. When she removed them in a simulation, the drive's efficiency increased by 40%. She ran the simulation 17 times, checking for errors. The results were consistent. These components were not part of the drive system. They were limiters, deliberately designed to restrict the performance of human ships. When she checked the navigation systems, she found similar restrictions. Human vessels could only travel along approved Council trade routes. Any attempt to deviate would trigger a system lockdown. Engineer Bora Nam worked at the Seoul shipyards where Earth's new merchant fleet was being constructed. The ships were beautiful, sleek designs that made the old human vessels look primitive by comparison. But Bora had noticed problems. The ships broke down constantly. Parts that should have lasted years failed within months, and every replacement part had to be purchased from Council suppliers at prices that seemed designed to drain Earth's economy. "We could manufacture these parts ourselves," she told her supervisor. "The specifications are not complex. We could produce them for 1/10 of the cost." Her supervisor, a tired man named Tai-Yang Park who had worked in shipbuilding for 40 years, shook his head. "Regulations prohibit it. Council safety standards require certified components. They say our manufacturing does not meet galactic quality requirements." Captain Young-Sik John commanded a merchant vessel that traveled the approved trade routes. He had been excited when humanity gained access to galactic commerce. The reality had been disappointing. Human ships were restricted to the least profitable routes. The valuable cargo contracts always went to established Council traders. When he complained, he was told that new members had to earn their privileges. It would take time, perhaps several generations, before humanity gained full trading rights. He met with other human captains in a station bar, a dingy place that catered to lower-tier traders. They all shared similar stories: bureaucratic obstacles, fees that made profit impossible, markets that were mysteriously closed to human goods. One captain, a woman named Sumin who had been trading for 3 years, had done the math. "At current rates," she said quietly, It will take human merchants 200 years to achieve parity with council traders. That is, if the rates do not get worse, which they will. Political analyst Yoon-ji Kang published a report that was quickly suppressed by her own government. She had studied the council's political structure carefully. Earth had a seat on the council, represented by Ambassador Ji-woo Park. But that seat had no voting power. It was ceremonial, a courtesy extended to new members. Full voting rights would be granted when humanity reached certain benchmarks. The benchmarks were never clearly defined and seemed to shift whenever Earth came close to achieving them. Ambassador Ji-woo sat in her office, reading Yoon-ji's report before it disappeared into classified archives. She had spent 5 years believing she was representing humanity's interests. Now she wondered if she was simply providing a friendly face to what was effectively human subjugation. She requested meetings with senior council members to discuss Earth's status. Her requests were acknowledged and ignored. Sung-ho received intelligence that made him physically ill. Earth's defense platforms, the ones provided by the Council to protect humanity, were not defensive at all. They were control nodes. Their weapons were positioned to target Earth's surface as much as potential threats from space. The command codes were held exclusively by the Council. Humanity had welcomed guardians who were actually jailers. He shared this information with Dae-hyun Kim, now an admiral in what remained of Earth's military. The two men sat in a secure room speaking in whispers even though they had swept for surveillance devices. "We have been fools," Dae-hyun said flatly. "They offered us gifts and we never asked the price." "What can we do?" Sung-ho asked. "They control orbital space. Our fleet is reduced to patrol boats. Our economy is dependent on their trade networks. We are trapped." Dae-hyun did not answer immediately. He stared at a map of Earth's solar system, noting the positions of Council installations. "We document everything. Every restriction, every manipulation, every lie. And we wait for an opportunity." Dr. Hana Lee contacted them through secure channels. She shared her findings about the limiters and restrictions built into every piece of technology the Council had provided. Bora Nam added her evidence about the planned obsolescence in human ships. Young-sik provided economic data showing the systematic exclusion of human commerce. Yoon-ji contributed her political analysis. A picture emerged, clear and damning. The Galactic Council was not a partnership. It was a sophisticated system of control. Humanity had not been welcomed as equals. They had been marked as subjects, their potential carefully managed to ensure they remained dependent and weak. Ambassador Ji-woo met with this group in secret. She looked at each of them, seeing the same anger and determination she felt. "We need more evidence. We need to understand the full scope of what has been done to us, and we need to know if this has happened to other species." "Where do we start?" Hana asked. "We find someone on the inside," Ji-woo said. "Someone in the Council who might tell us the truth." The ship fell from the sky like a dying star, trailing fire and debris across the night sky of New Vancouver Colony. Colonial Administrator Hyun-woo Song received the alert at 3 a.m. A vessel had crashed in the Northern Territories, 40 kilometers from the nearest settlement. The signature was Council, but the ship was broadcasting a distress signal on old emergency frequencies that had not been used in years. Security Chief Min-ah Cho assembled a response team within minutes. They took 2 transports into the wilderness, following the trail of scorched earth the falling ship had carved through the forest. What they found was unlike any Council vessel they had seen before. It was small, built for speed rather than comfort, and its hull was scarred with weapons fire. Inside, they found a single survivor. The being was reptilian, its scales a deep purple fading to gray. Blood that glowed faintly blue leaked from multiple wounds. Minna's medical scanner showed massive internal damage. The alien had minutes to live, maybe less. "Human," the alien rasped in broken standard. "Finally found humans." Hyun-woo knelt beside the dying creature. "We are here. We will help you." "No help. Too late." The alien's eyes, large and golden, focused on him with desperate intensity. "But you must know, must understand before they finish what they started." "Who?" Minna asked, her weapon still drawn, scanning for threats. "Who did this to you?" "The Council." The alien coughed, blue blood bubbling from its mouth. "The glorious, peaceful Galactic Council. They are not what they claim." The alien's hand, 3-fingered and trembling, reached into a pouch on its belt. It pulled out a data crystal, the kind used for high-density information storage. "Everything. In here. Proof. History. Truth they hide. Hyunwoo took the crystal carefully. What truth?
What have they done?
What they always do. The aliens' breathing became labored. Find promising species. Welcome them. Praise them. Then slowly, carefully take everything. Technology, resources, freedom. Until new species become slave in all but name. Mina exchanged a glance with Hyunwoo. This confirmed their worst suspicions. How many species? She asked. Hundreds, maybe thousands, over millions of years. Always the same pattern. The alien gripped Hyunwoo's arm with surprising strength. Your species is next. Already begun. Can see the signs. Dismantling your military, controlling your economy, limiting your technology. In 50 years, maybe less, humanity will be cattle. Fed, protected, controlled. Why are you telling us this? Hyunwoo asked. Because you are different. Humans are dangerous. Not in military sense. Dangerous because you question. You resist. You adapt. Council knows this. Why they work so fast with you. Must break you before you realize what is happening. The alien's eyes began to lose focus. My species was like yours, curious, aggressive, innovative. Council welcomed us 2,000 years ago. Now we are nothing. Serve their purposes. Build their ships. Fight their wars. Our culture, our independence, all gone. Bred and conditioned into obedience. You broke free, Mina said. How? Not free. Just awake. Spent lifetime learning truth, stealing evidence. Hundreds died to gather what is on that crystal. The alien's voice grew fainter. Show everyone. All humans. Make them see before too late. The treaty you signed is not partnership. Is surrender. They just make it slow enough you do not notice until chains are too strong to break. We will, Hyunwoo promised. We will make them understand. Good. The alien's grip loosened. One more thing, important. Council seems strong, ancient, unbeatable, but is lie. They are old, yes. But old means stagnant, comfortable. They have not fought real war in million years. Only suppress rebellions. Put down uprisings. Never faced enemy that innovates. That adapts. That refuses to surrender. The alien's eyes met Hyunwoo's one final time. If you fight with all you have, with all your human creativity and stubbornness, you have chance. Small, but chance. The alien died with what might have been a smile on its alien features. Mina checked for vital signs, found none, and gently closed the creature's eyes. Hyunwoo held the data crystal, feeling its weight. This small object might contain the key to humanity's future, or the confirmation of their doom. They returned to the colony and locked themselves in the most secure room available. Hyunwoo inserted the crystal into an isolated computer system, one with no connection to any network. What they found in the files made them sick. The records went back thousands of years, species after species all following the same pattern. First contact, friendship, treaty, integration, and then the slow strangulation. The Council would identify a species with potential, one that might someday become a rival. They would approach with offers of friendship and technology. The species would agree, seeing only the benefits. Then came the restrictions. Always reasonable. Always justified. Safety standards. Trade regulations. Military protocols. Environmental requirements. Each rule designed to limit the species' growth, to channel their development in directions the Council approved. Within a few generations, the species would be completely dependent on Council technology, Council trade, Council protection. Any species that resisted was crushed. The records showed dozens of civilizations that had discovered the truth and tried to break free. The Council's response was always the same: economic blockades that starved their industries, military interventions disguised as peacekeeping operations, in extreme cases, complete annihilation, explained away as tragic mistakes or necessary responses to aggression. Taeyang Park, who had come to New Vancouver to inspect the colony's mining operations, joined them. He was an old man, one who remembered Earth before first contact. He read through the files with growing horror. They are farming us, he said quietly. Like livestock, keeping us healthy and controlled so they can harvest our labor, our resources, our future. Mina found files specifically about humanity. The Council had been watching Earth for 300 years, the alien had said. The files revealed why. Humans were considered a Category 3 threat. Species with high adaptive capability, aggressive expansion instincts, and dangerous levels of creativity. The Council strategy was clear. Integrate them quickly, limit them severely, break them completely. We need to get this to Earth, Hyunwoo said. To Ambassador Jiwoo, to Admiral Dae-hyun, to anyone in a position to act. The Council monitors all communications, Minna pointed out. The moment we try to send this through official channels, they will intercept it. Then we send it through unofficial channels, Taeyang said. I know people in the merchant fleet. Captains who are loyal to humanity, not the Council. We can smuggle copies to Earth, to the colonies, to every human settlement in space. It took 2 weeks to make copies and establish the smuggling network. The data crystal's contents were divided and sent through dozens of different routes. Some were hidden in cargo shipments. Others were carried by trusted couriers. The most important copies were hand-delivered by people willing to risk everything. Ambassador Jiwoo received her copy during a private meeting in Geneva. She read through the files in one sitting, missing sleep, missing meals. When she finished, she contacted Admiral Dae-hyun through the most secure line available. We were right, she said. It is worse than we imagined. We need to meet. The meeting took place in a location that officially did not exist. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, a facility had been carved from solid rock during the early days of first contact. The people who built it had suspected that humanity might need secrets, places the Council could not find. They had been right. Admiral Dae-hyun Kim arrived first, accompanied by Commander Sung-ho Choi and Dr. Hana Lee. Ambassador Jiwoo came with Eun-ji Kang. They were met by a man who introduced himself simply as Director In-soo Kwon. He was thin, middle-aged, with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Behind him stood a woman named Subin Chae, who wore the coveralls of an engineer, and a younger man called Chan-woo Lee, whose military bearing was unmistakable. Welcome to the Prometheus Initiative, In-soo said. We have been expecting this day. Dae-hyun frowned. The Prometheus Initiative? I have never heard of this organization, and I have access to every classified program in Earth's defense structure. In-soo smiled slightly. You have access to every official program. The Prometheus Initiative was never official. We were founded the day after humanity signed the treaty with the Council. Some of us did not trust the aliens. We thought humanity should have insurance, just in case. What kind of insurance? Jiwoo asked. Instead of answering, In-soo led them deeper into the facility. They passed through security checkpoints that used biometrics Jiwoo did not recognize. They entered chambers filled with equipment that looked both familiar and alien. Finally, they reached a massive observation window that looked out into a cavern so large it could have held a small city. And it did hold a city, of sorts. Ships hung in construction cradles, dozens of them. Some were complete, others were skeletal frameworks. But all of them were clearly warships, bristling with weapons and armor. And none of them matched Council designs. For 5 years, Subin Chae explained, moving to stand beside them. We have been building a fleet. Purely human technology, no Council components, no limiters, no restrictions. Dae-hyun stared at the ships, his mind racing. The resources required for this, the manpower. How have you kept this hidden? The asteroid mining operations, Sung-ho said, suddenly understanding. The ones that always seem to have lower yields than projected. You have been skimming materials. Correct, In-soo confirmed. We also recruited people who shared our concerns. Scientists, engineers, military personnel. People who saw what was happening to humanity and wanted to do something about it. We are not a large organization, but we are dedicated. Chan-woo Lee stepped forward, activating a holographic display. These ships are based on pre-contact human technology, but improved. We took what we learned from the Council tech and reverse-engineered the principles. Then we made it better. Our faster-than-light drives are actually faster than Council drives. Our weapons are more efficient. Our sensors are more accurate. The Council's technology has not advanced in thousands of years, Hana said, understanding dawning. They have no reason to innovate. No competition. No threats. Exactly, Chan-woo confirmed. They are like an empire that has been at peace for so long they have forgotten how to fight. Their military tactics have not changed in 1,000,000 years. They rely on overwhelming force and standardized responses. They cannot adapt because they have never needed to. A pilot named Yuna Shin joined them, still wearing her flight suit. I have been testing the new fighters. They are incredible, fast, agile, and they can operate completely independently of any command network. The Council ships are all linked to central control systems. Cut the head off and the body stops working. You are talking about war, Jiwoo said carefully. War with the Galactic Council. We are talking about survival, Insu corrected. The data you received from New Vancouver confirms what we have suspected. The Council will not allow humanity to remain free. They will either control us or destroy us. Those are the only options they will accept. Yunji Kang, who had been silent, spoke up. What are our chances? Realistically, a tactical officer named Ji-Ho Beck brought up another holographic display, this one showing military projections. The Council has numbers on their side. Millions of ships, billions of trained personnel. They control most of the known galaxy. In a straight fight, humanity loses. Badly. So we die fighting instead of living as slaves? Daehyun asked, his voice hard. No, Ji-Ho said. We do not fight fair. The Council expects compliance or brief rebellion. They do not expect a long asymmetric war. We hit their supply lines, their communication networks, their administrative centers. We make them pay for every light year they try to control. We show other subjugated species that resistance is possible. An intelligence agent named Se-Ram Hong added her analysis. I have been mapping Council military assets for 3 years. They have weaknesses. Their fleets are spread thin, maintaining control over thousands of systems. Their response times are slow because they rely on bureaucratic approval for military action. Their leadership is fragmented, with 7 species all competing for dominance within the Council structure. You are suggesting we can actually win this, Jiwoo said, disbelief in her voice. I am suggesting we can survive it, Insu replied. And maybe, just maybe, we can inspire others to fight for their freedom. The Council's empire is built on lies and fear. Expose the lies, break the fear, and the whole structure might collapse. Daehyun walked closer to the observation window, studying the ships. He had spent his entire life in military service. He knew the cost of war, the price of conflict. He also knew that some things were worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. How many ships do you have operational? 47 warships fully operational, Subin reported. Another 32 in various stages of completion. About 200 fighter craft. 3 battle stations hidden in the outer system. Against millions, Sung-ho said quietly. Against an enemy that does not believe we are a threat, Chan-woo countered. The element of surprise is our greatest weapon. They think they know humanity. They think they have us measured and contained. We need to show them they are wrong. Hana Lee had been examining the technical specifications of the ships. This is remarkable work. But even with this fleet, we cannot hold Earth orbit against a full Council assault. We do not need to hold it, Yuna said. We need to break their control long enough to give humanity options. Right now we are trapped. We need to create space for humanity to maneuver, to choose its own path. Jiwoo looked at each person in the room. Dedicated, brilliant, and preparing for a war that would likely kill most of them. Does Earth's government know about this? Some leaders know, Insu admitted. Others suspect. Most are willfully blind. They invested their careers in the Council relationship. Admitting it was a mistake is too painful. Then we need to make them see, Jiwoo said firmly. We need to show them the evidence, make them understand what is at stake. Humanity needs to make this choice together, not have it made by a secret organization. Agreed, Daehyun said. But we should also be prepared for the Council to force our hand. If they discover the Prometheus initiative, they will not wait for us to organize a defense. As if summoning the future through words, an alarm began to sound throughout the facility. Se-Ram checked her communication device, her face going pale. Council security forces just raided 3 of our supply caches. They are demanding access to our mining operations. They know something is wrong. Insu looked at Daehyun and Jiwoo. It seems the Council has made the choice for us. The question now is whether humanity is ready to answer. The summons arrived through official channels exactly 12 hours after the Council raids. Ambassador Jiwoo Park was ordered to present herself at Council Central Station within 2 days. The message was polite, formal, and absolutely not a request. She recognized a command when she heard one. No matter how diplomatic the language, Admiral Daehyun insisted on accompanying her, along with a security detail led by Mina Cho. The Council accepted this with what seemed like amusement. They clearly did not view human military personnel as a threat. That arrogance might prove useful, Daehyun thought, but only if humanity survived the next few days. Council Central Station was a structure that defied human engineering principles. It was larger than Earth's moon, a construct of rings and spires that glowed with internal light. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. This was the heart of galactic civilization, the seat of power that had ruled unchallenged for millions of years. They were escorted through corridors that seemed designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. The architecture was overwhelming, the scale inhuman. Every surface displayed the wealth and power of the Council. Art from 1,000 worlds, technology that humanity could not begin to comprehend. Guards from 100 species, all watching the human delegation with various expressions that might have been contempt. The council chamber was a vast amphitheater. The 7 ruling species sat in elevated positions, looking down on the floor where supplicants stood. Jiwoo had been here before during diplomatic functions, but this time felt different. The atmosphere was hostile, charged with tension. The crystalline being that had welcomed humanity 5 years ago spoke first. Its voice, once musical and warm, now sounded cold. Ambassador Park, we are disappointed. We welcomed humanity in good faith. We offered friendship and assistance. And how does your species repay our generosity? With deception and hidden military programs. Jiwoo kept her voice steady. The Council accuses humanity of deception. Interesting, given what we have learned about the Council's true intentions toward new member species. A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. The water being spoke, its voice like ocean waves. Explain yourself, human. You dare make accusations against this council? I dare to speak truth, Jiwoo replied. We have evidence, records spanning thousands of years, documentation of how the council operates. First contact, friendship, integration, and then systematic exploitation. You do not welcome new species as equals. You identify potential rivals and carefully eliminate that potential. Lies, hissed the insectoid council member. Propaganda designed to justify your violations of treaty obligations. Daehyun stepped forward, ignoring Minna's warning hand on his arm. A council member, one of your own species, died giving us this information. Their last words were a warning about what you do to civilizations foolish enough to trust you. The reptilian military commander, the one who had promised to protect Earth, leaned forward. Its scales darkened to an angry red. You speak of a traitor, a defector who betrayed their species and their oath. Their words have no value. The data has value, Jiwoo countered. Records that match exactly with what has happened to humanity. The dismantling of our military, the restrictions on our technology, the economic manipulation, every step designed to make us dependent and controllable. The council members consulted among themselves in languages the translation devices could not interpret. Finally, the crystalline leader spoke again. You have violated the treaty in multiple ways. Unauthorized military construction, hidden facilities, misappropriation of resources. These are serious crimes. Self-defense is not a crime, Daehyun said. Self-defense implies a threat, the water being replied. The council has never threatened humanity. We have only offered assistance. Assistance that comes with chains, Jiwoo said. We are not interested in that kind of help anymore. The chamber fell silent. When the crystalline being spoke again, all pretense of friendship was gone. The council has maintained order in this galaxy for 3 million years. Order requires that all species follow the established rules. Humanity will dismantle its illegal military programs. You will provide full access to all your facilities for inspection. You will accept council administrators to oversee Earth's government until compliance is assured. You have 10 days to agree to these terms. And if we refuse? Jiwoo asked, though she already knew the answer. Then the council will consider humanity a hostile force, the military commander said flatly. We will impose an economic blockade. We will seize control of your orbital installations. If necessary, we will occupy Earth itself for its own protection. You cannot win a conflict with the council. No species ever has. There is always a first time, Daehyun said quietly. The insectoid member laughed, a clicking sound that echoed through the chamber. Brave words from primitives. You have had spaceflight for barely 2 centuries. You have never fought an interstellar war. You do not comprehend the forces you would face. Perhaps, Jiwoo admitted, but we comprehend slavery very well. Humanity has experience with it. We fought wars to end it on our own world. We will not willingly accept it from the stars. 10 days, the crystalline leader repeated. Transmit your compliance or face the consequences. This audience is concluded. The journey back to Earth felt longer than the outward trip. Jiwoo sat in the shuttle, staring at nothing, her mind racing. Minna and her security team maintained vigilant watch, expecting treachery. Daehyun reviewed tactical data, already planning for war. They were so confident, Minna said quietly. They genuinely believe we are no threat. 3 million years of unchallenged rule, Daehyun replied. They have forgotten that empires can fall. Back on Earth, an emergency session was convened. Every nation sent representatives. President Dongmin Cha presided, his face grave. Ji-woo presented the evidence they had gathered, and the ultimatum the council had delivered. The debate that followed was fierce. Some argued for compliance. The council was too powerful to fight. Humanity should accept their terms and hope for better treatment in the future. Others wanted to negotiate to find some middle ground. But a growing number recognized the truth. There was no middle ground with the council. They would accept only complete submission. Admiral Daehyun presented the Prometheus Initiative's capabilities. The hidden fleet, the advanced technology, the tactical plans. We cannot match the council's numbers, he admitted. But we do not need to. We need to make the cost of conquering humanity too high to be worth paying. We need to show them that we will never stop fighting. Dr. Hana Lee spoke about the technical advantages humanity had developed. They are old and comfortable. We are young and desperate. Desperation drives innovation in ways comfort never can. Director In-soo Kwon, no longer hidden, explained the Prometheus Initiative's strategy. We hit them hard. We hit them fast. We disrupt their control networks and inspire other subjugated species. The Council's empire is built on fear and lies. We shatter both. President Dongmin listened to every voice. Finally, he spoke. The question is simple. Do we die free or live as slaves? What kind of species do we want to be? The vote was not unanimous, but the majority was clear. Humanity would fight. Ji-woo was given the task of delivering Earth's response. She recorded a simple message. One word spoken in every human language. English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, Hindi, Korean, and dozens more. One word that would define humanity's relationship with the Galactic Council forever. The message was transmitted on every frequency, broadcast to every council installation, sent to every species in the galaxy. One word, simple, direct, and absolute, no. The word echoed across the galaxy. No. Simple, direct, uncompromising. The Galactic Council had expected negotiation, pleading, perhaps even desperate offers of compliance. They had not expected a single word of absolute refusal. The Council's initial response was dismissive. These were primitives, after all. Barely more than children playing with technology they did not truly understand. A show of force would bring them to reason. The Council assembled a fleet, 300 warships, more than enough to crush any resistance Earth could mount. The fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system expecting to find a frightened world ready to surrender. Instead, they found a fortress. The defense platforms that the Council had installed around Earth were dark, their systems offline. Human engineers had spent the previous week infiltrating and disabling them. In their place, weapons batteries and missile platforms of human design covered every approach to the planet. Captain Daehyun Kim commanded the defense from the bridge of the Defiant, one of the new warships built by the Prometheus Initiative. His fleet numbered only 47 ships against the Council's 300. The odds were terrible, but humanity had advantages the Council did not suspect. The Council fleet commander opened communications, expecting to dictate surrender terms. Instead, he found himself looking at Daehyun's calm face. "You are in violation of Galactic Council law," the commander began. "Surrender immediately or we will be forced to take control of your system by any means necessary." "No," Daehyun replied, echoing the message that had started this confrontation. "You cannot win this battle," the commander said, his tone suggesting he was explaining something obvious to a slow child. "We outnumber you 7-1. Your weapons are inferior. Your crews are inexperienced. This is your last chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed." "You are right," Daehyun agreed. "This will probably end badly for us. But here is something you should understand. Humanity has decided we would rather die fighting than live on our knees. You might win this battle. You might even conquer Earth, but we will make you pay for every inch. We will show the entire galaxy that the Council can bleed, and once people see that, your empire of fear will start to crack." The communication ended. The Council fleet moved forward in standard formation, a textbook approach that had worked unchanged for thousands of years. They expected the human ships to either flee or mount a desperate, disorganized defense. Commander Yuna Shin led the first strike. Her fighter squadron launched from hidden positions in the asteroid belt, moving at speeds the Council sensors barely registered. The new human engines were not just faster than Council technology, they were silent, nearly impossible to detect until they were already in attack range. Her fighters struck the Council fleet's communication ship, destroying it in the opening seconds of battle. Suddenly, the Council fleet lost coordinated command. Ships began operating independently, falling back on standard procedures because they could not receive new orders. Simultaneously, Commander Sung Ho Choi led a strike team that jumped into the system behind the Council fleet. His ships launched missiles that targeted not the Council vessels themselves, but their sensor arrays and weapon tracking systems. In military terms, he was not trying to destroy the enemy. He was blinding them. The Council fleet, for the first time in recorded history, was thrown into confusion. Their formations broke as individual captains tried to respond to threats they could barely track. Human ships darted between the massive Council vessels like wolves among cattle, hitting and running before the larger ships could bring their superior firepower to bear. Engineer Subin Che's designs proved their worth. The human ships were smaller, more maneuverable, and their weapons were optimized for precision rather than raw power. While Council ships tried to swat fighters with weapons designed to destroy battle stations, human vessels targeted weak points, sensor clusters, engine systems, shield generators. Back on Earth, the disabled Council defense platforms suddenly came back online. But they were no longer under Council control. Teams led by Mina Cho had not just shut them down, they had reprogrammed them. The platforms turned their weapons on the Council fleet, firing from positions the enemy had considered secure. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Council fleet was in retreat. They had lost 63 ships destroyed, another 100 damaged. The human fleet had lost 19 vessels, but the survivors had proven something the Council had not believed possible. Humanity could fight. Humanity could win, but Daehyun knew this was just the beginning. The Council had sent a patrol force, not their main battle fleets. The real war was about to begin. Across the galaxy, other species watched what happened at Earth with growing interest. The battle had been broadcast on every channel, intentionally leaked by intelligence agent Se-Rum Hong. The Council tried to suppress the recordings, but the data had already spread too far. On a world designated only by a catalog number, a species that had been members of the Council for 700 years watched humans fight. They saw the Council fleet retreat in disorder, and for the first time in living memory, they began to question whether the Council was truly invincible. On another world, a military commander studied the human tactics with professional appreciation. Asymmetric warfare, precision strikes, psychological impact. The humans were not fighting to win a war of attrition. They were fighting to shatter the myth of Council supremacy. Director In-Soo Kwon coordinated the broader strategy from his hidden command center. The Prometheus Initiative activated sleeper cells across Council space. Ships began disappearing from Council supply routes. Communication networks experienced mysterious failures. Administrative centers found their databases corrupted. Nothing catastrophic, nothing that would trigger full military response. Just enough to make the Council spread their forces thin, to make them paranoid and reactive. Ambassador Ji Woo, now effectively a war leader, opened communication channels with every species in the galaxy. She broadcast the evidence of Council manipulation, the records of thousands of years of systematic exploitation. She spoke directly to subjugated peoples who had forgotten they were subjugated. "The Council will tell you this is a human rebellion," she said in a message that was translated into thousands of languages. "They will say we are dangerous, ungrateful, and deserve to be punished. But ask yourselves, why are they so afraid of one species saying no? What power do they hold over you that depends on your compliance?" On Earth itself, the population mobilized for total war. Factories retooled for military production. Scientists who had been forced to work with Council restrictions suddenly found themselves free to innovate. The planet became a hive of activity, building ships, weapons, and the infrastructure to sustain a long conflict. Young Sik Jeon, the merchant captain, led a fleet of civilian vessels converted into blockade runners. They carried weapons, supplies, and information to human colonies that the Council was trying to isolate. Many ships were lost, but many got through, maintaining humanity's scattered settlements. The Council's response was predictable. They declared humanity a hostile force and called for full military mobilization. Millions of ships began converging on human space. The Council was going to crush this rebellion with overwhelming force, as they had done countless times before. But something was different this time. On 17 different worlds, species that had been Council members for centuries began to resist. Nothing overt at first, just minor non-compliance, bureaucratic delays, technical problems that slowed the military mobilization. The Council's absolute authority was beginning to fracture. The Council's 7 species met in emergency session. For the first time in millions of years, they felt something they had forgotten: fear. Not fear of humanity's military power, but fear that the order they had maintained for so long was coming apart. "We should have destroyed them when we first detected them," one Council member argued, "before they developed spaceflight." "Too late for that," another replied. "Now we must make an example of them. Show the entire galaxy what happens to species that defy the Council." But the military commander understood the real problem. "We are not fighting just humans anymore. We are fighting an idea, the idea that subjugated species can resist, that the Council is not invincible. If we cannot crush humanity quickly and completely, we may face rebellions across the entire galaxy." The Council committed everything to destroying humanity, but humanity had already accomplished its first objective. They had survived. They had fought. They had shown that the Council could bleed. And across the galaxy, millions of beings who had never questioned the Council's authority were beginning to ask dangerous questions. The word that had started it all continued to echo through space: no. It was becoming a rallying cry, a symbol of resistance. One word that carried the weight of every species' right to determine its own future. The Council's armada was the largest military force assembled in 3 million years. 5 million warships drawn from hundreds of worlds converging on Earth's solar system. The intent was clear: total annihilation. Humanity would be destroyed so completely that their name would become a warning to any species that dared dream of freedom. Admiral Dae-hyun Kim stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the sensor displays with grim determination. The human fleet had grown to 300 ships, built in desperate haste over the last 6 months. Against 5 million it was nothing. But humanity had never expected to win through military might alone. "Sir," Commander Sung-Ho Choi reported, "Council Vanguard entering weapons range in 30 minutes. Main fleet will arrive in 6 hours. Broadcast the evidence," Dae-hyun ordered. "Every frequency. Every language. Maximum power." Across the galaxy, on every world, through every communication network, the data stolen by the dying Council defector began to play. Not just military channels, but civilian ones. Entertainment networks. Emergency broadcast systems. Intelligence agent Se-Rom Hong had spent months infiltrating Council communication infrastructure for this moment. The broadcasts showed everything. The systematic exploitation of member species, the manufactured dependencies, the suppressed rebellions, the lies upon which the Council's power rested. And most importantly, it showed the internal Council documents that laid out their strategy: identify, welcome, integrate, exploit, control. On worlds across the galaxy, beings who had never questioned the Council's authority watched in shock. Species that had been members for thousands of years saw proof that they had been manipulated, their development carefully managed to prevent them from ever becoming a threat to Council supremacy. The response was not immediate, but it was growing. On one world, workers in a military shipyard stopped construction on Council vessels. On another, administrative staff began deleting records that would have helped coordinate the assault on humanity. Small acts of resistance scattered across hundreds of systems. The Vanguard fleet arrived at Earth orbit, 300,000 ships ready to overwhelm the human defenses. But something was wrong. Their formation was ragged. Some ships moved hesitantly. The coordination that should have been perfect was compromised. Pilot Chan Woo Lee led a wing of fighters against the Vanguard, expecting to face overwhelming firepower. Instead, he found Council ships hesitating, their crews questioning their orders. Some vessels broke formation entirely, moving away from the battle. Others fought half-heartedly, as if going through motions they no longer believed in. "What is happening?" Chan Woo asked over the command channel. "The truth is happening," Ambassador Ji Woo replied from her position on Earth. She was coordinating diplomatic efforts even as the battle raged above. The species that make up the council are realizing they have been as much victims as anyone else. The ruling elite manipulated everyone, including their own people. On 3 different worlds, entire fleets announced they would no longer follow council orders. 2 of the 7 ruling species had internal revolts, their populations rising against leaders who had maintained power through lies. The council's empire, built over millions of years, was fracturing. But the council leadership still had loyal forces, billions of beings whose wealth and power depended on maintaining the status quo. The battle above Earth intensified as these loyalists pushed forward, determined to destroy humanity regardless of the cost. Engineer Subin Che watched from the orbital defense station as wave after wave of council ships pressed the attack. Human defenses were being overwhelmed. Ships were dying, their crews making final stands that bought minutes, not hours. Earth's surface was already taking bombardment as some council vessels broke through the defensive line. Then reinforcements arrived. Not human reinforcements, they had none left. Ships from other species, ones that had just hours ago been part of the council armada, now turned their weapons against their former allies. 3 major species officially withdrew from the council, declaring that they would no longer be part of an empire built on exploitation. The battle became chaos. Council loyalists fighting rebels, human ships trying to distinguish friend from foe. The neat formations and organized warfare the council had relied on for millions of years collapsed into desperate, confused fighting. Director Insu Kwan coordinated with rebel leaders across the galaxy from his command center. The Prometheus Initiative's true purpose was revealed. They had never been just about building a human fleet. They had been about creating a network of resistance, planting the seeds of rebellion that the broadcast of evidence brought to flower. On Council Central Station, the 7 ruling species met in emergency session. Their empire was collapsing around them. Dozens of species were in open rebellion. Their military forces were divided. The bureaucracy that administered millions of worlds was grinding to a halt as workers refused to maintain a system they now understood to be corrupt. The crystalline leader who had welcomed humanity years ago spoke with a voice that held none of its former confidence. We must negotiate before everything we built is destroyed. Negotiate with primitives? The insectoid member hissed. But its protest was weak. They all knew the situation was hopeless. Ambassador Jiwoo received the council's request for ceasefire negotiations. She consulted with President Dongmin Cha and Admiral Dae Hyun. The human leadership had no desire to see the galaxy burn. Their goal had never been destruction, but freedom. The negotiations took place on neutral ground, a station run by a species that had remained carefully uninvolved in the conflict. The council came as supplicants now, not rulers. Their demand was simple. Stop the rebellion, stop the broadcasts, and they would grant humanity full independence. No, Jiwoo said, and the word still carried power. Humanity's freedom is not up for negotiation. It is not something you can grant or withhold. But more importantly, this is not about humanity anymore. This is about every species you have exploited for millions of years. What do you want? The water being asked, its form rippling with what might have been despair. A new council, Jiwoo replied, one where every species has equal voice, where decisions are made democratically, not imposed by ancient elites, where membership is truly voluntary and beneficial to all, where young species are mentored, not manipulated. That is impossible, the military commander protested. Chaos, complete chaos. Order requires structure, hierarchy, control. Order built on lies is not order, Daehyun said. It is just slow-motion tyranny. The negotiations lasted 3 weeks. The galaxy held its breath, waiting. Some council loyalists tried to continue fighting, but they found themselves increasingly isolated. The tide had turned, and most beings could feel it. The result was not a treaty, but a complete restructuring. The old council was dissolved. In its place, a new federation was formed, one with real democratic principles. Every species had representation proportional to population, but waited to ensure smaller civilizations could not be overwhelmed by larger ones. No species could be forced to join. No species could have their development restricted without clear evidence of genuine danger to others. Dr. Hana Lee led the Scientific Cooperation Initiative, ensuring that knowledge would be shared freely rather than doled out as a control mechanism. Taeyang Park helped establish fair trade agreements that did not favor established powers over newcomers. Youngsik Jeon found that space lanes were open to all, without the bureaucratic barriers that had crippled human commerce. It was not perfect. Centuries of ingrained behavior did not change overnight. Some species rejected the new order and withdrew into isolation. Some conflicts that had been suppressed by council authority flared into open warfare. But for the first time in millions of years, the galaxy had a chance to grow beyond the stagnant order that had held it captive. On Earth, humanity celebrated. Not because they had won a war, the cost had been terrible with millions dead and entire colonies destroyed, but because they had secured something more valuable than victory. They had secured the right to choose their own path. Admiral Dae-hyun retired, his duty done. He spent his remaining years teaching military strategy, always emphasizing the same lesson. The greatest weapon is not technology but the refusal to accept that defeat is inevitable. Ambassador Jiwoo became the first elected leader of the new Galactic Federation. She worked tirelessly to build something better than what had come before, knowing that freedom required constant vigilance to maintain. Director In-soo Kwon disbanded the Prometheus Initiative. Its purpose had been served. But he kept its records, a reminder of what a small group of dedicated people could accomplish when they refused to accept an unjust status quo. Years later, a young student asked Dr. Hana Lee why humanity had risked everything, rather than accepting the Council's control. After all, they would have been safe, fed, protected. Life would have been comfortable even if limited. Hana thought about the question carefully before answering. "There is a story from human history," she said. "A man was asked why he climbed a dangerous mountain. He replied, because it is there. The Council could not understand this about humanity. They thought we sought space travel for resources or territory or power, but we went to the stars for the same reason we climb mountains, because